All right, strap yourselves in, folks, because today we are diving headfirst into some serious World of Warcraft drama.
Hell yeah.
You wanted the lowdown on all the Disc Priest debate that's been going on in the forums, and boy, did we find some opinions.
Oh yeah, some scorching hot takes.
Some really fiery opinions. We're talking players being accused of being carried, demands for nerfs, and enough salt to fill the Dead Sea.
It seems like anytime you get a bunch of passionate players all trying to, reach the top of a game as intricate as World of Warcraft, things can get a little heated, especially when it comes to class balance.
And some of these posts are just brutal. Like one guy just straight up said,
"Oh, really?
My grandma could top the healing charts with this spec."
Oof, ouch. I mean, not exactly constructive criticism, but it definitely highlights the intensity of this debate.
For sure.
So to get into why Disc Priests are causing such a stir, let's break down what they bring to the table.
Yeah, what is it about Disc Priests that are making people so mad?
Well, they're a specialization of the priest class that focuses on healing, but not in the typical way that you might think.
Oh, okay.
So instead of just direct heals, they've got a unique toolkit based around shields and damage mitigation.
So less about reactive healing and more about preventing the damage from happening in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. They have abilities like Power Word, Shield, which creates a barrier that absorbs damage, and Atonement, which lets them heal allies by dealing damage.
Oh, wow.
So this proactive approach makes them super durable, especially in PvP situations like battlegrounds where things are really chaotic.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's fast-paced.
Okay, so I could see how that could lead to some frustration, if you're going up against a Disc Priest and you just can't seem to kill him.
Right, and that's where that carried accusation comes into play.
Yeah.
Some players feel like Disc Priests require less skill because they have all these defensive tools that can make up for mistakes or poor positioning.
Oh, so they're saying that it's easier to perform well as a Disc Priest even if you're not like a great player? Right, it's that classic skill issue debate.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I lost, but it's not because I'm bad. It's because you're playing an easy class.
Yeah, for sure. I get that argument. But isn't it possible that, Disc Priests are actually overtuned right now?
It's definitely possible. But it's important to remember that Disc Priests haven't always been perceived this way.
Really?
For several expansions, they were actually considered one of the weaker healing specializations. Their playstyle relied on this spell called Shadow Mend, which healed but also damaged the priests, so it made them really vulnerable.
Oh, so they were healing but also hurting themselves in the process.
Exactly.
Okay, so then what changed? Why are they suddenly public enemy #1?
Well, a few things happened. Blizzard reworked some of their core abilities like Atonement to be less punishing and more effective. And they also introduced new talents and legendaries that really synergized well with their shield-heavy playstyle.
So they kind of doubled down on that whole absorption shield playstyle.
Yeah, and at the same time, the meta shifted towards more burst damage, which plays right into the Disc Priest's strengths.
Oh, so they kind of got lucky with how the meta changed.
You could say that their ability to absorb huge chunks of damage suddenly became super valuable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So it's not just that they got stronger, it's that the game around them changed in a way that made their strengths more pronounced.
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm of, buffs and meta shifts and maybe just a little bit of player salt.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different factors, which makes it difficult to pinpoint if they're truly overpowered or if it's just perception because of the current state of the game.
So it sounds like it's really hard to balance a game like World of Warcraft.
Oh yeah, it's a monumental task.
With so many different classes and abilities, how do they even approach something like that?
So imagine trying to juggle, like you said, dozens of classes, each with their own unique abilities and playstyles,
Right.
while also accounting for things like talents gear and the constantly changing meta. It's almost impossible to make everyone happy.
So how do they even go about it? Do they just look at data or do they actually listen to player feedback?
Well, it's a combination of both.
Okay.
Blizzard has access to mountains of data on player performance,
Yeah.
win rates, ability usage, things like that.
Okay.
And this data helps them to identify potential outliers, classes that are maybe performing way above or way below expectations.
Gotcha. So they can see statistically if a class is doing too well or not well enough.
Exactly. but the numbers don't always tell the whole story.
Right, because you can't really capture the feeling of playing against a certain class or spec.
Yeah, exactly, like that feeling of helplessness when you're going up against a disc priest.
Yeah.
And you just can't seem to break through their shields.
Just pounding your head against a wall.
Exactly. And that's where player feedback is so important.
Okay.
Blizzard is always monitoring the forums, Reddit, social media, trying to gauge player sentiment.
So they're listening.
They're listening. They also have the PTR, the public test realm, where players can actually test out changes and give feedback.
Oh, that's cool.
Before those changes go live.
So it's like a constant back and forth between the data and what the players are saying.
Right. But even with all of that, perfect balance is kind of an elusive goal.
Right. It's probably impossible to make everyone happy.
There will always be classes that are perceived as stronger or weaker, depending on the meta player skill, individual matchups, things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And with every change that Blizzard makes, there's always a risk of unintended consequences.
Oh, yeah.
One small nerf to a disc priest could have a huge impact on other classes and, create new imbalances.
Yeah, like a domino effect.
Exactly. It's like a delicate ecosystem where everything is kind of interconnected.
It's all tied together.
Yeah.
So in a way, these, heated discussions in the forums, while sometimes frustrating, are actually really important for the game's balance.
They are. They provide Blizzard with insights into how players are experiencing the game, and they help them identify areas that maybe need a little more attention.
So it's almost like a necessary evil.
It is. It's important to remember that behind every single forum post, no matter how angry or poorly worded, there's a player who cares about the game and wants it to be fun and fair.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
For everyone.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all that negativity.
Right.
And kind of forget that we're all here to have fun.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes crucial to filter out all the noise and look beyond those get good responses.
Oh man, those are the worst.
It's about understanding the underlying concerns and having a productive conversation about potential solutions.
Okay, so let's put this in perspective. Let's say you're scrolling through the forums, you're seeing all this stuff about disc priests, and you're thinking, are these players just bad, or is there actually something broken about this class?
Right.
What do you do?
The first thing you got to do is take a deep breath.
Okay.
And try to detach from the emotions in those posts. Remember, forums tend to amplify the most extreme opinions.
Yeah.
Then you got to ask yourself, what are they actually complaining about?
Okay.
Is it a specific ability? Is it a talent? Or just the overall play style?
Yeah, so really break down the argument and see if it actually makes sense.
Right.
Don't just blindly accept that the class is overpowered because one person said so.
Exactly. You got to do your own research. Maybe watch some streams of high-level Disc Priest gameplay.
Right.
Maybe even try the class out yourself.
Yeah.
Get a feel for their strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And if you still feel like something is off, then don't be afraid to voice your concerns. But just make sure you're doing it in a constructive way.
Right.
Provide specific examples, suggest potential solutions. Engage in a healthy debate.
So instead of raging in the forums, maybe try to be a little more proactive.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, game balance is a collaborative effort between the developers and the community.
So we're all in this together.
We are.
And who knows, maybe by understanding this whole process a little better and, trying to have some productive conversations, we can all help make World of Warcraft a more balanced and enjoyable game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to think that we as players actually have some say in how the game is balanced.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the coolest things about the World of Warcraft community.
Yeah.
It's so passionate, so vocal, and people genuinely care about this game.
Yeah, they really do, even if that passion sometimes comes out as, let's just say, constructive criticism on the forums.
Well, you know what they say? The only thing worse than people complaining about your game is people not caring about it at all.
That's true. But let's be real, it's not always easy to figure out what's actually going on. Like, are these complaints legitimate, or are people just blowing things out of proportion?
It's like panning for gold.
Yeah.
You got to sift through a lot of dirt, but every now and then you find that valuable nugget that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive into all this Disc Priest drama, what's the golden nugget you want to leave our listeners with?
It's tempting to get caught up in that whole OP versus skill issue thing, but the reality is it's just way more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Game balance is like this constantly shifting puzzle, and it's influenced by class design, the player skill, the meta, even just plain old luck.
Yeah, and everyone's coming at it with their own experiences, their own frustrations.
Exactly. So don't just take what you read on the forums as gospel.
Right.
Do your research experiment with different classes. Talk to other players and form your own opinions.
Yeah.
And if you still feel strongly about something, don't just rage quit. Channel that energy into something positive.
Yeah, be proactive, give thoughtful feedback, suggest solutions.
Exactly. Have healthy discussions.
Because we all want the same thing, right? A game that's balanced, challenging, and fun.
Well said.
So maybe by taking a step back and really trying to understand how this all works, we can actually make World of Warcraft even better.
I think so.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of disc-crease drama. It's been a blast.
It always is. Until next time, remember, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those discussions civil.
And we'll see you in the game.